All right, today we're jumping into a really personal and honestly a super powerful letter from the Apostle Paul. But we're not just going to read it. We're going to go on a cinematic verse-by-verse journey through 2 Thessalonians chapter 3. The goal here is to build a scene in our minds for every single line, so this ancient text really truly sticks.
But first, let's start with a question that feels very, very modern. Think about your job, your family, maybe a group project at school. What happens when one person on the team just stops trying? When they become more of a burden than a help. It feels like a 21st century problem, but as we're about to see, it's an ancient one too. And Paul is about to tackle it head on.
So the chapter kicks off not with some big command, but with something really raw and urgent. It's a request. Paul is reaching out to his friends, to his community, and he's basically asking for their prayerful support. He's calling for spiritual backup.
Okay, verse 1. Paul's first request is all about speed. He wants this message, this word of the Lord, to just spread like wildfire. To really lock this in your mind, picture his message as this glowing, futuristic bullet train. He's asking them to pray for clear tracks so it can just race across the world, completely unopposed and looking glorious.
Then we get to verse 2, and the focus shifts, from offense to defense. See, not everyone is excited about that bullet train. Paul is asking for protection from people who are actively trying to sabotage his work. So imagine a shimmering, invisible shield just popping up around Paul and his team, and it's deflecting these fiery arrows of opposition coming from all sides.
Now, watch this. Paul does a quick pivot. Right after asking for their prayers, he gives them an assurance. He's reminding them that while he needs protection, they have a protector too. And the whole promise is built on God's faithfulness. Just picture a massive ancient anchor dropping right out of the heavens, slamming deep into the earth, and holding their whole community steady no matter what storm comes.
Verse 4. You can really feel the trust here. Paul isn't just their leader, he's like their biggest fan. He's basically saying, I believe in you guys. I have total faith you're going to stick to the game plan. You can almost see a proud coach on the sidelines, just watching his well-prepared team, and he's nodding with this complete confidence that they know the plays and they're gonna nail them.
And verse 5, Paul closes out this first part with this really powerful blessing. He's praying for their focus. Imagine someone holding a compass, right? But the needle isn't pointing north. Instead, it just snaps into place, pointing directly at two glowing words on the horizon: love and patience. For Paul, that's the true north he wants for them.
And right here, the music changes. The tone shifts, and it shifts dramatically. We go from this warm, friendly request to a really firm, direct command. Paul is now zooming in on a serious problem he's heard about in their community, and that problem is idleness.
Verse 6. The command is sharp. He says to withdraw from anyone walking disorderly. So what does that even mean? Well, it's about living out of sync with the group's shared values. To lock this in, just picture a long line of marchers all perfectly in step. Then all of a sudden, one person breaks formation, makes a hard right turn, and just wanders off, totally messing up the unity of the whole group.
Now, verse 7. Paul's argument here is so simple. Just copy me. He's not asking them to do anything he hasn't already modeled for them. This is classic leadership by example. The visual for this is a super clear set of footprints left in wet sand, creating this perfect, easy-to-follow path. Paul is saying, look, my tracks are right there. Just step where I stepped.
Verse 8, and he gets really specific about his example. He says, hey, I wasn't a freeloader. I paid my own way. The image here is just so powerful. You can see Paul's strong, calloused hands working with leather and tools late into the night. His face is just lit by a single oil lamp, and he's determined not to be a financial burden on anybody.
Verse 9. Paul clarifies his motive, which is so important. He says, look, I could have demanded support. I had the right, but I chose not to. Why? He did it to set the standard. He wanted to give them a living, breathing blueprint for how to behave. Picture an architect carefully unrolling a detailed blueprint on a big table, and he's pointing to the design for his whole team to see and copy exactly.
Verse 10, and this all leads to one of the most famous and blunt lines in the entire letter. There's zero ambiguity here. It's just a straightforward principle of cause and effect, a personal responsibility. The image is stark, and you will not forget it. A single empty wooden plate sitting right in the center of an empty table. No work, no food. Simple as that.
Verse 11. Now Paul defines the problem even more clearly.
This idleness he's talking about, it's not passive, it's active. These folks aren't just doing nothing, they're becoming busybodies, which means they're meddling in other people's business. The perfect visual for this? Imagine someone totally ignoring their own empty cooking pot, but instead, they're over there stirring their neighbor's pot so hard that it boils over and makes a huge mess for everyone.
Verse 12. So, what's the solution? Paul lays it out plain and simple. Mind your own business, do your work, and provide for yourself. The image here is one of total peace and order, a complete contrast to the last one. Just see a person sitting at their own table, calmly and contentedly eating a simple meal that they prepared with their own 2 hands.
Okay, so after dealing with the problem head-on, Paul turns his attention back to the majority, the ones who are doing the right thing. This is a word of encouragement for them, and it comes with some clear instructions on how to handle the whole situation.
Verse 13, and this is so crucial. It's so easy to get frustrated and tired when you see other people slacking off. So Paul steps in like their coach again, and he's saying, don't you dare give up. You keep going. The image here has to be a marathon runner. Their face is just etched with exhaustion, but their eyes are fixed. They're determined, and they are pushing through that final mile towards a finish line that's just bathed in light.
So what do they actually do about the people who ignore this letter? Paul gives a very practical 2-step process. First, identify the person. Second, create some social distance. Now, the goal here isn't just punishment for punishment's sake. The verse actually says the goal is that he may be ashamed. It's meant to trigger a moment of self-awareness that hopefully leads to correction.
Verse 15. But, and this is a huge but, the attitude behind the action is everything. This is the critical balancing act. This isn't about shunning someone or making an enemy. It's all about loving correction. So imagine one person putting a firm but gentle hand on another's shoulder, and their expression is one of deep concern, not anger. It's supposed to feel like a family intervention, not a declaration of war.
And with that really difficult subject handled, the letter's tone just softens one last time. Paul brings it all in for a landing with a final, personal blessing. He's resolving all that earlier tension with this overwhelming sense of grace and peace.
Wow, what a blessing. Not just peace, but peace always and in every way. It's so comprehensive. The visual that just pops into my head is these gentle, concentric ripples spreading slowly across the surface of a perfectly still lake at dawn, just extending outwards until they touch every single shore.
Verse 17. And now for the seal of authenticity. Paul, who probably dictated this whole letter to a scribe, now takes the pen himself to sign off. It's his personal guarantee that this message is really from him. You can just imagine a close-up shot of a unique, glowing signature being written with a quill, authenticating the whole document like a royal seal.
Verse 18, the letter ends right where it needs to, with grace. This is the final word, the final thought he wants to leave them with. It's a beautiful bookend to the whole thing. Just picture a warm, golden light gently coming down from above, enveloping the entire community in this feeling of unearned favor and love.
So there you have it. We've walked through Paul's guide to work and warning and grace. He laid out this incredible blueprint for a community where everyone pulls their weight, where problems are handled with both firmness and love, and where the whole thing is just covered in peace. It really leaves us with a question to think about. In our own lives, right now, in our workplaces and our families, what are the essential ingredients for a truly healthy community?